We have a quorum, so I'm going to call the select board meeting of Tuesday, October 8th to order. And first item is approval of the agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Changes to the agenda? David, I think we've got a couple, don't we?
Yeah, we have one, the DEI item we're gonna pull off. Izzy wanted to
Be a part of
speak to
it?
that. Yep, and obviously she's not here, we don't wanna have the conversation without her. So that's item number 8 that we'll push to the next meeting. Number 7 as well.
Okay, so 7 and 8, we're
Yeah.
pushing to the next meeting. Anything else anybody has for changes? Okay, with those two changes, all in favor of approving the amended agenda, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, next is approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Anything on the consent agenda?
Nothing, I just would like to point a couple of things, just bring to your attention the awards from CWSRF. This state recognition as a wastewater treatment plant. And then police department got some funds. I just wanna say them and, yay, right?
Yes, congratulations to all the staff who earned that.
Yeah, agreed. With nothing other than calling it out, then everybody who's in favor of approving the consent agenda as drafted, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Hi.
Okay.
Hey, David, this is Dan. I appear to only be watching you through your computer
Yeah.
and not through the owl. So it is hard to hear everybody else. Heather's pretty weak, and I can hear Brian pretty well, but not everybody else very well.
Yeah,
Owl did not come back on.
the owls don't look like the video's on. We're gonna try to see if we can get that. We are recording, so we'll have a record of it, but Andy's gonna see if we can get them turned back on.
Okay. Okay.
So we'll give it a try, but in the meantime,
In the meantime, I'm okay if they speak up.
Gotta yell so Dan can hear. On that note, or on a similar grant funding note, I did see an article about Department of Library Awards, and I didn't see Middlebury.
We didn't get it.
Yeah.
No. We have a meeting tomorrow. I'm gonna
it's just,
sit in and brainstorming because there's still some grants to be announced, but
here.
That is.
the big grant that we were really hoping for, we did not get. And some of the smaller towns got
Mic button on the side there.
that.
Hey, you had almost, yeah.
What kind of a dent are we talking about?
You just did something.
$1 million we were hoping for.
I think you fired it up.
So,
Perhaps.
$1.5 million, right?
$1.5 million was what the max, we'd asked for $1.5 million.
Okay,
We'd
yeah.
hoped at least to get $1 million. So,
No, it's bouncing back to the computer, so. We'll do our best tonight, and we'll have to fix this for tomorrow.
Yeah, we've.
Well, I can certainly hear better, but I can't see any. I don't have any volume. I mean, I don't have any video.
Kathleen has been having trouble with these owls lately, I think.
You'll have to just stare at me, I guess. Sorry, everybody.
it might be a challenge, so when we do citizen comments here, if there's, which we're going into next, if there's somebody to come up, I assume you might be coming up for citizen comments? Yes. So come forward, and if you could speak loudly.
Yes, I can.
There we go, so that we can catch it, because I think it's catching it on his
Yep.
computer.
Is this okay?
Yes, that is great, yes.
Is it the power strip?
Who's chairman?
I,
Okay, so I probably should give this to you. This just has,
Why don't you give us your name for the record?
you don't need to write this minute.
is there a copy for us?
This is the copy for you.
And you're gonna read off of that first?
I didn't make one for everybody.
No, but did you need it for yourself?
Not really, I've got it in my purse.
Why don't you introduce yourself for everybody?
I'm Kathy Nesson. You might recognize me from
Yes.
school. I'm one of the founders.
Yeah, yeah.
Our silo is all gone now. But in any case, I've been having problems with water at my house. I'm not talking about the FEMA deluge. I'm talking about before then. And I would call the town, say, there's something wrong. They had put 5 sidewalk pieces in. I said, I'm getting full of all this water. And then plumbing, is that they're, when they've had to come because of this, would drain it out, and it would happen again. And I said, please come back. There's something wrong. There's no drain here. And came back, no, never was a drain there. Wished Art Selleck was still alive at that point because he was my neighbor. So finally, I had my neighbor call. I'm embarrassed to say that I decided it had to be a man voice. But I'll say that's what I thought, and I was right. 3 people came from the town water department immediately and started digging and found the crushed pipe. And years ago, Art had, and my yard, were not when I was there, but was flooded all the time and it would freeze, and the neighbors would all ice skate. He decided that wasn't safe anymore because maybe they'd be sued when he heard about that kind of thing. So he put big bricks on all over his yard, covered it with topsoil, planted seed, and had a lawn. Now it made my yard the low place, but we didn't have a problem because there was a big drain. It was like this kind, and it drained off, except for maybe a little now and then. Nothing to worry about. Well, when they put those sidewalks in, that drain was crushed. And because of that, I've had the trouble that I've given you, and I spent the money that I've given you with Champlain Valley. They've been the ones in Bristol, the plumbers, and they've come time and again, ruined my furnace. Luckily, weatherization gave me a furnace because I'm on Social Security. So, and I did get a furnace. I was 7 weeks without heat, so I had to be elsewhere. This is the time when my son passed away. This is when I had cancer surgery. Although I didn't feel really sick, I just said just about my son. I didn't know I was sick actually. And I had to be away for 7 weeks till my daughter, one of my daughters could care for me till I was back to business. So all this was going on, and of course there were the floodings that came, but I'm talking about the ones that came because there was no drainage. And so I complained here upstairs, and she said that they're insured, because I asked, I said, what's your insurance? Because, you owe me money, more than I'm even asking for, because there's other events. And they said, they get in touch with the cities and towns, or whatever it's called. I didn't bring the paper with me, it had a person's name on it too, I forgot. And they had someone come down. By that time, the town had repaired the drain, and grass was growing up all along the side where all the white rock was and stuff, but it was draining. And that person made some comment about, well, it can't drain because of all that grass growing on either side, which is ridiculous, but that's what they said. I haven't heard from them since. They never told me anything, they never talked to me. I have called, you can imagine, month after month after month, I have called because I've lost a lot of money that I can't afford. I always paid my plumber bill, but what that meant, what I did without. And so I felt that the town owes me because I told the town when it stopped working. And when I understood what was going on, I did call the town. They did come, and they did come. No. Finally, they found it, the crushed pipe. Finally, the whole drainage thing, when they dug up my yard, between the yards, and put a whole thing, they did a whole lot of work. and it's working, so that's great. Meanwhile, of course, it's not that I didn't have some FEMA problems, which I did, but, that's a FEMA problem, and they don't give you any money if you ask for them, I never got any. So I'm brought here, the things that Champlain Valley said were the things directly related to my broken pipe, not to some other thing or rain or, that directly was something that was created by the broken pipe or whatever. And that's, and Mark, the guy, the plumber, is the one you talk to, because Mark will, at Champlain Valley, will tell you the whole story. But he also, they gave me this, as I said, what was the pipe and what was the storms, because right then I was without house all that time, and it was a very difficult time for me and my family, because we were in a hotel a lot, and I didn't even ask for that money yet, but I'll ask my son's a lawyer, I don't have him to ask, but I do want the plumbing. I would like you to reimburse me for that plumbing. It was equal to a little more than I get from Social Security. And so you can imagine the year I went. And it was a time of great loss to me. But that doesn't matter, that doesn't change that I think that they should have seen the pipe and listened to me. And they didn't come until I had my neighbor, who was a man, and one of them knew him, come down. And that was just shameful. You hear that, ladies? That was shameful, because they came in, like 3 of them, and immediately found the pipe, the crushed pipe, where the sidewalks were clear. Here's the pipe would come here between our houses this way, and then go under the sidewalk and drain out somewhere, I don't even know.
So Kathy, from what I understand, there's a water service pipe that was crushed, and then the drainage
pipe. It was the drainage pipe.
it's not a water,
No.
like your
We had
domestic.
a little trouble with that.
Okay, you mentioned the water department, I got confused for a
No, I'm
second.
sorry. The water, well, I called I guess I called the water department.
The Public Works
Public
Department.
Works.
Okay,
That's it.
all right, so it's not a water supply problem, it's
No,
a drainage
it was
problem.
drainage.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
It was drainage. They'd been there forever and worked beautifully.
Yeah.
And
So-
especially, I think it got put there when Art raised his yard.
So we're in a period of transition with, our town manager has
Yeah.
moved on to another job. We have an interim town manager, Tom Hanley.
Thank you.
And it's awkward for a board kind of in this proceeding to try to figure out all of the details. And
Sure.
what we'd ask, I think, if I,
Let me just,
you do that.
yeah, let me handle it if you could, Fred. So, we're gonna look into this and get back to you, okay? We need to, we're new to it, and what we need to do is.
Oh, sure.
is
Yeah.
look at it, and
Yeah,
we'll
you
get,
can call
we'll
Public
find out.
Works, you can call Champlain Valley Plumbing and Heating.
What's the best phone number to get you at, Captain?
I'm an Ohio number because my daughter pays for it, and she used to be in
Yes.
Ohio. 937-825-9256.
937-825-9256.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
all right, so,
And so, but Mark will tell you the history with plumbing things and so forth. The weatherization got me a furnace, because that was ruined as well.
okay, so Mark was the one who did the work?
Mark, except for one time, somebody I think named Jim might have, but Mark mostly took care of my plumbing. And since, with all the things, other water problems, not the crushed pipe problem, that's working.
Just so
Okay.
you know, I spoke with her, she called me a few days ago and she gave me whole detail. I tried to get in touch with Emily, I couldn't get a hold of her, I called her 3 times. So I wanted to just let her know that there's somebody concerned about this.
But I have such a big concern, because of course I expect your insurance, the town's insurance, to pay for it.
Yeah,
It's perfect, but they will not talk to me. month after month, I call, I leave a message if I can at all, and no one has called. Once in the very beginning, and they sounded very skeptical about doing anything for me, and nothing since then. And this is your insurance company, guys.
Well, I would guess we have to talk to them.
I'll call Passive to see if there was a claim filed, number one,
Yeah,
and then I'll
there
find
should
out.
be.
And I'll call you tomorrow, Kathy,
Okay.
to get some detail.
Okay, I'm funny with my phone, I'm old, so, you know, I'll do my best.
I'm funny with mine too, and I'm
Okay,
pretty old as well. So we'll figure out how to make a
We're in
connection.
big trouble.
I'll call you tomorrow. There's some questions I need to ask you about timing and things like that,
Okay.
and I'll follow up. I have a meeting with,
The dates of work done, Mark knows, and he knows better than I
I see that.
know.
I've got a meeting tomorrow with Emily in
Uh-huh.
the afternoon, so I'll bring that up with her, and I'll follow
Okay,
up with
good.
Passive to see if there was in fact a claim filed.
Okay. Yeah, tomorrow afternoon I have to help someone with the phone because his mom just died. And she paid for his phone
All right, I'll catch up with you at some point tomorrow.
there. So tell the insurance company I could use the money.
Okay.
Thanks for coming down.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you. I wrote how much it adds up to somewhere on the paper. And it's not FEMA stuff.
Right.
Okay.
Got it.
FEMA stuff, they didn't give me anything, but FEMA stuff is, that's them, you know.
Mhm.
So, oh, I have one question. They were at a time when all the FEMA stuff was going on, they had people sign up, and I was one of them, to get help emptying your basement, you know, and getting the junk out. And, all of a sudden they were gone. I mean, no one ever called me, no one ever came. And it's taking me a very long time to get that stuff out because of this. I can only go, you know. So I've only got about a third of the stuff out on the yard, spread out so the sun can get the water out because the town makes you pay for the weight of the garbage. And that's wet, so I don't want it to be wet. Anyway, does anybody know anything? Is that over? Is there no help anymore for the big floods and inundations and stuff?
We
I
can
think
ask
they're
Emily if
around
she's experienced that with any other. We can speak to Public Works to see whether they've dealt with that issue for other residents, and if they might have some knowledge about the service.
Well, I was thinking of calling the Boy Scouts, but then I thought that's an insurance thing, you know. My insurance probably, you know, I don't know. It's an old seller, but you know, some kind of, something like that, or some of the college, the, you know, sports
How much
teams.
stuff do you have, Catherine, that,
It's enough, I used to have it, when, in a storage locker.
so it would fit in a storage
It
locker?
fit into a storage locker, and a lot of it has come out. Nothing at all went back and that kind of thing. So it's not an immense amount of stuff to normal people, but you can't get teenagers to do it when they're afraid of spiders. You know?
Sure.
I would do it easily, my kids don't want me to go in the cellar by myself. But, thank you so much, guys.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thanks for
Sorry to
coming,
be a pain.
Catherine.
How do I get out?
Oh,
The door.
Yeah, I'm parked in the parking lot.
We might reach out to the college, one of the sports teams might help her empty that out.
Just to clean it out.
Are you here for something on the agenda? You're item 9.
Item
okay.
9, okay.
Well, we're gonna be going fairly fast by the looks, so. Okay, we'll move on to municipal tax letter insert. I'll read this in the record. The town of Middlebury's biannual tax bills were recently sent out to town property owners. Unfortunately, that mailing inadvertently included a supplemental letter that the select board had discussed, but not approved to be sent out. The tone and language of that letter was not supported by the board. Communication with town staff has taken place to ensure a similar error does not take place moving forward. And the select board would like to apologize to the citizens of Middlebury and each of the individuals referenced in that letter. And we have a draft letter for us to sign, and I think we apologize specifically to the individual who was named, who wasn't even involved with our town's
Representation
representation, so,
I would move to approve the draft statement of apology regarding the recent letter included in the town of Middlebury's tax bill mailing.
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And thanks for writing that letter, Andy.
Yeah, certainly.
Okay, next, post-town policy determining consideration for town issue easements. David?
Yep, so this comes from an assignment, this comes from the, emerged out of the gas line request in St. Stephen's. There was a broader sort of line of discussion among the select board about, well, how do we handle this? How could we handle this in the future? This was assigned to the policy review committee in late June, I believe. We took a look at a handful of other towns, reached out to public works officials or the manager's office in those towns, and you can see it in the memo. For the most part, they don't charge for these easements, including easements from utilities. We reached out to town council and also the LCT's council just to see where they had dealt with it in the past. The advice, broadly speaking, and you can see some of the summary there is a suggestion that you have a list of factors, that you try to treat people in similar situations equally. And so what you see before you, obviously this is not just a simple bottom line, charge everybody X number of dollars and call it a day. The board ultimately can decide what sort of consideration it's looking for. It could be monetary, or it could be, like we talked about before, stronger language in an agreement than you might otherwise get. So a variety of ways to be compensated if you want to be compensated. We did put in language, I think Heather, you may have been the one to raise it, that spoke to the fact that you wouldn't consider the parties benefiting from it when you're making the decision, so you don't skew one way or another unreasonably. So you can see that the policy's pretty straightforward. It's just about half a page. The factors are pretty common sense. The cost of administrating, the degree to which there may be alternatives. We encourage but don't require them to speak to the Energy Committee. We try to look at the past practices of the town. Maybe most obviously you're looking at the limitation of the easement, right? Is it an easement to walk across property, or is it an easement to build a wall on property? Kind of varies the impact of the public's use of that public land. We also take, setting forth just a basic procedure, so in the future, when these things come up, they'll know who to send them to. It's pretty straightforward. Ultimately, the select board's making the decision. We don't do too many of these, to be clear, whether it's utility or otherwise. There was the Churchill easement from a year or so ago that we tried to find a good faith valuation of the property in question, but we really, frankly, don't have that many of these. So, nevertheless, this will go into the town. If you approve it, it goes into the town's policy booklet, and we'll dust it off if and when a new easement request comes down the road.
Comments, Fred?
I think this is a great draft. I just comment in my experience that there are other instances where the town receives requests for easements for other sorts of things, and it shouldn't just be surrounding the experience with St. Stephen's and the gas easement. So under number 2, the need and alternatives, I just think we could take a broader look at expression of this and talk about the consultation involved. If an easement was requested across the police department property, we would talk to the police chief, or the fire department, the fire chief, or the rec department for rec lands, or the rec park, or Creek Road. We would, in all cases, I would hope, consult with the Director of Public Works Planning and Director of Public Works Operation, or if it involves water or wastewater, with those superintendents, and the tree committee with respect to impacts on town trees on those properties, and maybe the conservation committee if it involves woodlands or conservation property. I just think that singling out the energy committee is a little bit more from a result from this St. Stephen's experience than we ought to have as a broad policy. And in that respect, I think that it would be best practice for the town administration, through the town manager, to manage those consultations based on the nature of the request. In other words, rather than having an applicant go to the department and lobby them for, whatever, I think it'd be best for the town manager to decide, based on the nature of the request, who should be consulted, and that information should come back to the board rather than applicants doing it. And I think it doesn't mean that these consultations should involve any veto. I think that's for the select board to decide based on these are all advisory committees, you know. Secondly, on number 6, you say value, the comprehensive value of the specific parts of any town real property. I think that's ambiguous to me, and I think what we're talking about is fair market value of the easement, as determined by the town appraiser. Is what we.
Yeah, I think we were, I don't want to, you know, maybe half dozen on one side, 6 and 5. I think the general idea from, this might have been from Nancy who raised this particular point, was to take a broader approach than just a monetary, but rather value in a more holistic sense, which I understand is a little more vague than a monetary.
Well, there's a lot of practice around determining fair market value, and other things that don't have any practice or standards are ambiguous, and that becomes awkward for policy direction, don't you think?
Fred, the view of the committee was that in the case of an easement, you're dedicating public lands, public goods in some way to a non-public entity. And the cost of that is whatever lack of use the public gets from this. Right, if you put a fence across a very thin strip of land, you could impede the public beyond the value of the land that fence is on, right?
Yeah.
And so the idea of value here, rather than fair market value, is to look at in what way is the public's use diminished.
Well, I think it's covered under number 4. There was scope and limitations. To what extent is the public excluded from it? But value is a money thing,
No,
isn't it? Isn't that what is intended by number 6, the money?
things could have value, it's not necessarily related to.
Well, there's values under all of these other numbered items, you know. But, okay, maybe we're getting confused with the, I just think there's town needs or impacts upon the town, whether it's whatever department's uses of it are affected, and then there's money. You know, so I would separate those issues and be clear about them so that the policy can work for us and not have it just bogged down in confusion. Finally, I think, you know, the things that we began to write into our easements regarding a reversionary right, if the easement isn't used ultimately, that it reverts to the town, and some limitation on assignment or resale. You know, I don't think people ought to profit from this and resell town easements. So those are my thoughts about it. I appreciate all the work that's been done, but I just think it ought to be broader than just from the gas easement. And
So to your first point, we could add language in the procedure that encourages the town manager to seek input from any.
not encourages, but charges to the town manager the responsibility for coordinating the review of the affected towns, departments, and committees, and then reporting back to the select board on their opinions about that.
And that could strike the second sentence of number 2 under section 4.
Yeah, because it would include the energy committee, and I think may is a soft word, should would be a better word. I don't think any committee ought to have a veto. Shall seems too strong. I think encouraging committee review or department reviews is the right word to use.
Okay.
May is too optional for me, but anyway.
Okay, well, it
Those are my
sounds
thoughts.
like we have some language to add in, which we just talked about, which is the town manager will seek the appropriate input from relevant staff for the select board to consider as it relates to each particular easement. If that's,
Staff and
committees.
appropriate subcommittees.
Yeah.
which would allow us to strike the second sentence in number 2. Are you fine with that as one edit? I think, edit?
Can I make a comment on that? One thing that would be really helpful for me in these conversations is having a determination of whether there are other options that is determined by someone other than the party requesting. And that may be able to come from town staff. But I'm looking for a non-biased opinion on whether there are alternatives. And not alternatives, you know, is there an alternative, but it's gonna cost more, but it doesn't require
Yeah.
public land?
Yeah.
Like,
So number 2 could be, say, consultation and alternatives.
yeah.
Need
So
an
I'm-
alternative.
So one thing I'm looking for in these conversations is, yeah,
That's good.
a discussion of alternatives that doesn't come from the person applying. Whether we gotta hire an engineer, or, I don't know, I don't wanna necessarily go down that road, but. Am I making any sense?
No, yeah, I agree.
I think that is the second consideration factor, and I think that a thorough application would
And in
address
this,
that.
and this, for me, this applies to any easement we've gotten a request for,
Yeah.
not just the
Right.
most recent one.
Absolutely.
Right.
Like the Churchill.
Sewer easements, access easements,
Yeah.
there's a bunch.
You know, wanting to know if there is,
That's why we typically go to
Yeah.
the subject matter expert as opposed to just the applicant.
So I've got a couple edits here. We can try to edit it now, or if you'd like, there's no harm in coming back in 2 weeks and editing it.
I think put stew on it and
Okay.
bring it
Yep.
back.
Sounds good.
Thank you, David.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
for
no
that. I
problem.
think this is a great start, and
Get it there
it's good to have something finally
in writing.
in writing,
Yep.
yeah. So thank you for
All right.
making it a priority.
So 7 and 8 again were the ones we were postponing to the next
Okay.
meeting.
And we're going on to
Number 9.
number 9. And that's board nomination for the Energy Committee, and we have Alice White
In the house.
in the house. Alice, want to say hi to everybody? Come on up.
Sure.
Welcome to the community.
Thank you. Thank you. Although I feel like I've been part of the community for a long, long time, or I've been trying to get back to the community for a long time. Almost 50 years since I graduated from Middlebury. So
Wow. Wow.
Welcome home, then.
it feels that way.
So you're interested in being a part of our Energy Committee?
Yes.
That sounds great. You got, looks like you've got some great background, mechanical engineering, chair at the Boston University, chief scientist from Bell Laboratories. We're really up in our Energy Committee. So.
This is,
And we graduate with BA in physics from Middlebury College.
And a PhD in
A
physics.
PhD from Harvard. We like the Middlebury College one because it's our home.
It put me on the right path, let me say
Yes.
that.
Did you leave,
We
did you leave
start a
out
lot of-
anything else, or?
Did I leave?
Yeah. I don't know, I think she's a little underqualified.
I
knew we
thought
had to
about
go
it.
into closed session
Yeah,
to
yeah.
deliberate on this
I
one.
decided
So-
not to attach my whole CV.
so the Energy Committee has a lot of, their qualifications are amazing. The Energy Committee has a lot of talented and experienced people. And they are, as the liaison to the Energy Committee, I will just offer that their ambitions are not just for Middlebury to be on the forefront of energy and climate resiliency and being proactive about dealing with those. And I think this adds to the need for the committee to have some more attention and staffing. They come up with projects and ideas that need attention. And we should be aware that our public works and other facilities managing people, particularly with applicants and other committee members as qualified as this, will need to be prepared to step up and respond to their ideas, which are creative and advanced for our community. I think it's fantastic, but I just, the Energy Committee is a very talented and active committee. And so, welcome.
I'll move to nominate Alice White to fill the current vacancy on the Town of Middlebury's Energy Committee.
Second.
Seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you, Alice.
Yes, thank you.
I'm
Thanks for
excited.
coming tonight, too.
Sure.
And we'll do the appointment at the subsequent
Oh, right.
two-step process.
It says to fill the current vacancy in the agenda notes. I think it's Bill Cunningham
Yes.
is the one who,
Yeah.
I think
A little
we
thank you to
should put in the
Bill.
minutes that we express our thanks for his service and contributions to the committee, and his term expires in 2027. So if we're filling a vacancy, then you would serve until that.
And it would be a new, once it expires, we'll have a new 3-year term for you to apply for if you'd like. Okay.
Thank you.
Next, John. Authorization for temporary use of town property in the construction of St. Stephen's Church.
Thank you for your help and for seeing me on rather short notice. Appreciate that.
We had a busy night, but we squeezed you in.
I see that.
It's probably the,
It's good
probably
I
the,
came a bit early.
Yeah.
it is, this is, the freest we've been in years.
Don't let it go to your head.
Yeah.
I know.
No, there's
We got plenty to work on.
there's some,
10:30 nights.
No, no.
Well, in any event, Crystal Grant has well put together this concise little summation of what this project is about with St. Stephen's Church. And along the way, complication has come up having to do with a existing storm drain that goes across the property, and so you may have heard somewhat of that. If not, I can help you with that. In any event, you look as though you haven't heard about that, so I'll talk about it. The project itself is to do a foundation drain system around the St. Stephen's Church completely, to satisfy the needs for corrections of stormwater and high groundwater leakage that they suffer on the parish hall on the lower level and have forever and ever. That work involves trenching tight along the building, cleaning the building foundation, applying foam insulation, so there's a insulation buffer added to the project, a drainage mat system over that, and coating, and with that a 6-inch drain tile that is bedded at a depth below the floor of the existing church, and so that goes the whole perimeter. The engineers, Engineering Ventures, who's worked with us many times, became suspicious of an existing drainage line around the northeasterly side of the church, and did some investigation on that. And that investigation is still ongoing, but have found some causes for concern. It's a clay tile line in 3-foot sections that's been there a long time. And that in the first examination by TVing from Main Street as far as they could go, which was only about 62 feet, found a certain amount of deformation in the line, and also some partial obstruction. So they've recently done some investigation from the other end of the line where it outlets into part of the drainage field created with the bridge tunnel project, and found that there is at that end a line within a line that was put in there, obviously to help it somewhat, but the overall condition is still being studied. So we've reported this to the town, and brought up the issue of, well, do you think you want to replace this line because it looks fragile and worn? And of course, we know that the town is struggling with very large drainage project needs and very difficult budgets in trying to take care of those. So Emily is not eager to take that on. The church may be willing to foot the cost and take a payback over time, because doing it during the time of the project would lessen the cost. DeBishop Excavating is doing the project, and they've put together a price of $66,000 to replace the town drainage line. So that would be about half of what it would cost if you did it all by itself, because you have the temporary protections, mobilization, site restoration, all those things that go together that are going to be done anyway. So that is all still on the table, and that is for your information. What we're here tonight to ask you for is simply your approval of our working on the drainage work that I first described around the building, and the fencing for that work that would be put in place, which I drew for you.
So it would stop before the benches.
Excuse me?
It would stop before the benches.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for the benefit of people who are at home, there's a pink line that it's drawn on the plans around St. Stephen's,
They can't see it.
but I'm trying to describe it.
Oh, yeah.
That would define the construction area, but it would not really go into Triangle Park. It would be behind the stone set seats that are angled alongside of the church. Is that a fair description?
Can we get a copy of that to put in the public record?
Yeah, yep.
The,
And we,
the area to the
Or maybe,
northeast side is extended out, so there's a laydown area there
Yeah.
for the work. And the only correction that I would make to what Crystal Grant put together, that she put a date of 12/1 of taking down the fencing. Actually, the project schedule is for this first drainage work is through December 31. And so that's.
I thought that was pretty quick.
Yeah. That schedule at 12/31 is awfully ambitious.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what we hope to do.
So, John, is the design such that the drainage piping around the church will add on to the existing storm drain on that property?
No, it's a discrete project separate from it.
Okay.
And it drains into the town drainage system.
Oh, yes.
Same way.
Yes, well, it's actually the state system. This is work with AOT, or V-Trans, to go into the big drop.
So at the southeast corner, where the newest edition of the church is where it would go.
Yes, but
But
drops
the-
into the drop tunnel, drop invert that's 30 feet deep, so that the water goes underneath the bridge top.
But the other replacement drain shows connecting to a town storm drain in Main Street.
Yes, and
So which-
what that does is it collects all the water that comes down Main Street, both sides, from Route 7,
And it kicks it around through the green to this?
and takes it around there. We expect that that was probably located in that way because there's some ledge on the other side of the front of the church that inhibits an easy placement, which we're going to have to deal with some of that ledge to get our drainage around. That's been one of the places where the church suffers from leakage now.
So, I'm unclear about a couple things with this. This perimeter drain that goes from Main Street
That's
around.
not what we're doing.
That's a concept, but it's gonna be deferred until some future time? Is that-
No, we're in discussion now with how best to handle this. And so it will be up to the town to make a decision on how we wish to handle it. And that decision would be placed on, will be based on cost and on what all the findings are of the condition of the existing line and how well it performs, so forth. But,
So related to that drainage project,
Can we not staff it here, Tim?
what?
This is Emily's job to staff that. He's not bringing that project to us. That's not ready for the select board to be discussing.
no, I just bring it up for information on.
Yeah, probably best if we don't get engineered design plans with it.
Well, I'm just gonna say one
Okay.
little thing about it, Brian. On sheet C201, there's a swale depicted. And the typical of the swale is a 1-on-3 slope shown on C302. And you see this thing with the arrows in it
Yeah,
up here, and the typical ditch? A ditch through the area that the St. Stephen's has its pheasant market on, and peasant market, excuse me, and the festival in the green. I think an idea of a French drain, something that's level, so that the public use of the green, or the church's own use of it, isn't a ditch. I'm gonna have a hard time voting for a ditch across the green.
the profile can be carefully considered. The idea here is to capture the water so it doesn't pool at the bottom.
I understand,
Yeah, so,
but depict a French drain or something that's level, not a 1-on-3, not something people are gonna fall into.
understood.
Thank you.
I have a quick question. Is this going to affect the summer market we do in the town? The summer.
No,
This is gonna be done December 31st or short
Yeah.
after.
But the landscaping is
Then there
going
will
on
be,
until end of July, I think.
yeah, and then there will be a winter shutdown, and then there will be restoration of the area in the spring. That will commence in April.
That's
That's
the area
just within
inside
that-
your pink.
Inside your pink, right?
Okay, it won't be on the triangle park, sorry.
No, and that was, my only concern was the utilization of Triangle Park for the Christmas stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And there, it doesn't appear they're gonna impede
Stay
that.
out of that.
So this town drain that just the bishop quoted is 66,000 to repair. The implication is that Emily can decide this without,
No,
It's not,
we don't staff that stuff here, Fred. How many times do we have to
well, isn't that a
correct this
budgetary
stuff?
impact?
It is, but it's not being brought to us. I'm getting tired of staffing stuff before it even comes to us from the staff.
Well,
We do not do staff work at these
are we
meetings.
approving these plans?
No, we're approving their utilization of the green area, of putting up a fence. That is what's brought to us tonight.
Okay, sorry. Seems confusing.
Well, let's talk about it before we're in the middle of a meeting. These notes were out long before that.
I'll move to authorize trustees of the Diocese of Vermont, successor in interest to the Episcopal Society of Middlebury, with limited use of town property for perimeter drain work at St. Stephen's Church, including project fencing and a staging area in Triangle Park. This authorization does not specifically include future tree removal or upgrades to the town stormwater system.
second.
I think that last part is very important. We understand that there's special regulations for dealing with town trees. There's one tree that is a church tree, a locust tree, on the Triangle Park side, which will be removed, but that, because it's too close to the building. And that the church then is looking at other planting options as the restoration of the project goes. But trees, if the old clay tile line is to be removed in the future, well, then the linden tree, which sits smack on top of it, is certainly in jeopardy. And there's a little bit of a threat to a pin oak, which I think can be easily avoided. So, again, for your information.
I seconded that.
Farhad seconded it.
Moved in a second, okay? All questions answered?
Yes.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed?
I'm going to abstain.
Okay.
Thank you for your help. Sorry it takes so long.
Good.
Check warrants.
I reviewed the warrants. I move to approve expenditures in the amount of $1,021,559.76, consisting of $894,169.57 for accounts payable and $127,390.19 for payroll for the period of September 25th, 2024 through October 8th, 2024.
Second?
Moved and seconded, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, those opposed?
Dan's good,
Okay.
so, yep.
Select board member concerns, Farhad.
Yes, just before I came to the meeting, I had a call from Tony Neri. He's concerned about this encampment down here. He has a rental property on the other side, and he said he's having a hard time finding people to rent because of this, so much noise, so much disturbance, and so much police presence every day, and he was about to come, but he got busy, so he called me to let you guys know that he's very concerned about.
Looks like it's wrong.
It's grown. There was shouting when I was coming in just now.
They were pretty loud when I came in. Chief, any idea how many are out there now?
And I guess probably a dozen, at least.
And are there still tents down by Mr.
Yeah, there was a pretty big group down there this afternoon at the tents, down at the riverside.
No, he's talking about the Mr. Up's side.
Right, that's what I
Is
said.
there?
There was a
Oh.
group down there as well, with some tents, in addition to the one over in the corner.
Mm.
And there's some new ones there. I've never seen them before.
A couple of them I know personally are in an unfortunate situation. They have jobs and they're living in these tents. So,
Oh, really?
yeah, I know a couple of them at least. I know them personally that they come to the store, but they have jobs and they don't have housing.
When's our next task force meeting?
So the task force, the assignment you gave us about the encampment policy, we've had discussion with the homelessness task force, who were very helpful and open-minded to discussing some sort of movement forward. We met with the policy review committee, and then per your instructions, we'll meet with the public safety group. The idea and the task is they're gonna have to come up with a consensus. There's gonna have to be compromise, but the premise is, we're gonna use the Montpelier example as a starting point, and if there is consensus among the group, we would bring back some variation of that. It's up to us to set where those standards are gonna be, but one of the takeaways of that concept is you essentially are designating certain areas that are not going to be allowed as places to camp if certain factors are met. I don't wanna get ahead of ourselves, because it's up to those groups to reach that consensus, but that would be the kind of policy that would come back, and then the town would be able to act in accordance with that policy. So that's one pathway that we're looking at as a tool in the tool belt if it gets approved.
Some of this is on private property, as Tony mentions. He's got to take a property owner's initiative to deal with that stuff. He can disallow anything going on his property there in the back.
Yeah.
Most of this spills over onto the property that's owned by whoever owns the building there. We've spoken to them over the past couple of years about posting it and not letting people do it, but they really expressed no interest in doing that. So now we've got a spillover kind of into the municipal area. So I think this task force, the group here, is going to have to get some property owners on board with some of this.
Okay, that's good to know.
And the initial feedback from Heidi, from Charter House and that group was, you know, they're appreciative of the idea that it will provide some clarity when they do their outreach to these groups to help them understand where they can't be, and therefore may help guide them to where they can be. But given that the issue is a long-term issue, having something in writing, having a policy that the police can understand and the nonprofits can understand, and even the individuals we're speaking of can understand, hopefully can help everybody in the long run. So we'll see if we can reach a consensus and bring it back to you.
It's gotten much worse than last year, situation.
Just kind of recently, it seems, I hadn't noticed this many.
I don't know what you call it, the grouping right out here behind the library encampment has really grown, and the amount of stuff and trash and just unsightliness, you know, I just has increased dramatically. Yeah,
I
it
just
just doesn't look very good.
want to inform the board that I zoomed into the policy committee. I did a little research into the town charter. There's an express charter authority for the town to deal with the issues of trespass, just as private property owners can say, this particular property is not appropriate for you to trespass on. School property or other, we might declare what areas are inappropriate. We might declare that a property that's going to be the subject of a construction project, like a library addition, and give them good notice that the construction site is going to need to clear that. So there's time for this. But the town has a legal authority to say, there's some places that you absolutely cannot be. And we ought to assert that. And not just by a policy. We need, I talked with Tom Hanley about this. Policies aren't really enforceable when it comes to that. You need an ordinance. It says, you know, this park is open or closed these times, or these properties are not suitable for people to store private goods on their trailers or their campers or this stuff. We need to have assert control as stewards of town property over at least some areas, and then have a policy to guide things. But I would start broader than just this homelessness issue, and because we're stewards of town property, and they should not occupy the library or the town conference room to the exclusion of public uses. Okay, so let's start there, and then work from that in terms of getting ahead of the planned construction projects or the other things that we know will be sensitive. And I don't know if that captures what I tried to phone in and say to the committee, but David is aware of this.
Yep.
I think we actually have more authority than that, given the last Supreme Court decision. Because before, we had to have an ordinance that said the park closing. I don't think we even have to have that now.
Well,
Yeah, we need to do a little research into that, but I think we were given a little bit more broader authorities with that finding in Oregon, so.
I would start with a policy and then have an ordinance to deal with a particular subset of this relating to the homeless.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we ought to be able to say, sorry, you need to move from here, and give the police and our administration the authority legally to make that happen when we need it to.
And we have to decide where it is that, I mean, this is the challenge that we were having, is where is it that we would guide them?
We do have a hand raised, just Laura has raised her hand, just, would you like me to
Yes.
bring her in? All right, Laura, I'm gonna allow you to talk, if you can unmute yourself. There you go.
Hi, Laura.
Hello, I appreciate, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I concur with everything that was just said. I just wanted to let you know that I attended the Addison County Housing Coalition meeting last week, chaired by Susan Whitmore, John Graham, and Heidi was there, and many others. And they discussed this, and they're forming a small group to help prepare for the discussion at the Public Health and Safety Committee meeting. And I can tell you two things, that came up from that discussion. One was, could the policy or ordinance define who decides what the sensitive area is? Because currently the Montpelier policy only designates the town manager. And so it would be good to broaden that a little bit, not to a flock of people, but more than one person. So that was one thing. And then they're struggling to respond to the question they're being asked about where is a safe and legal place to camp. So I'm just sharing those two things. That's it.
Okay, thanks, Laura.
Thank you, Laura.
I think that is the questions.
Yeah, those are not, I
easy
appreciate Laura bringing that up. Those came up in the conversation with the Housing Coalition, and again, each town has approached it differently, but those are the topics that for which consensus will have to be reached, right? Who is ultimately making that decision? Is it one person? Is it a police chief? Is it a group of town employees? Are you gonna bring people together every time a complaint comes in? Montpelier receives quite a few complaints, so what practical realities are gonna apply when you've got a dozen complaints coming in every month about each particular issue? And her second point was raised as well in that homelessness task force about if you're telling them where they can't be, are you going to affirmatively tell them where they can be?
And what obligations go along with that?
Yeah, and we discussed that at length last year.
Yes.
When we were having
Heidi did bring that up.
actually,
Yep.
a lot of vandalism, so
Heidi,
while the numbers are problematic, we're not appearing to have the vandalism issues and security issues that we were experiencing last year when we really wanted to get them out of here.
Heidi did note that topic has come up before, at least
Yeah.
once or twice among her peers and among the task force about the where. And I don't want to speak for Heidi, but I think the consensus was there hadn't been a resolution to that question. It's still outstanding.
But if you read the police log, the first 4 or 5 items on there is police is tending to somebody here about a complaint about something. And there's so many reports of that.
Laura, I see your hand still up. Is that a new comment or is it from before?
No, she still had that.
Oh, okay, that answers that. Thanks, Laura.
Okay. Well, we'll be anxious to see what comes out of all that discussion, Dave.
Yep.
Just quick condolences to the Bartlett family for the sudden loss of an important member of our community, beloved teacher and coach, Derek Bartlett. So just condolences to his family.
What a wonderful memorial service.
Yes.
Yes.
Turnout, just showed what impact he's made on the community, so many people's lives.
Yep.
And Mike
He and I
Adamant
were in
also.
school together.
Mike Adamant from the Career Center, he passed away someday.
Yes.
He was a very
Serious?
popular teacher,
Yeah.
yeah.
I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, it was the same day.
Yes.
I was traveling all the time. I was in town.
Yeah, I was fighting a little bit of cold, so I had to watch the service online, but it was fortunate that they provided streaming service for that. So Derek and I, he was a year ahead of me, but he and I were in school together at the same time.
Fred,
No other.
Dan?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate how extremely disappointed I was in the Ilsley 100 on not receiving the state library grant. We're still pressing on. We're going to build a library. We just have to figure out how to cover a $1.5 million shortfall. Looks like we might have an opportunity next year. They're redefining the rules for the library grants next year to allow it to include Middlebury. They had a size limit on the size of the communities that could do it. We were too big to apply next year, but they're going to change that. So that gives me some optimism. And we've got a meeting tomorrow, as Brian said. Looking forward to kind of brainstorming what we can do.
Okay, thanks, Dan.
Do you think we can raise $1.5 million with a bake sale?
Big.
Well, the way they had,
Bottle drive,
they had these two grant windows, and one was, which is the second one, was limited, that was supposed to be focused on the small towns, where they used all the money in the first window on all the small towns. And didn't give the big town, not that I consider us a big town, but we were large enough to not be a small town, and so they're opening up the restrictions so that we can be applied.
Something.
Maybe, I don't know if that's a recognition that they watched it, or, I don't know. Andy?
Yeah, I've got nothing tonight.
Okay, we do have a need for a short executive session on personnel matters.
I'll move to enter into executive session with the inclusion of the town manager and assistant town manager to, related to the, employment of a public officer or employee as allowed under Title I, Section 313A3.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
I'm gonna stop the recording, and Laura.